We're live. Welcome. Sunday, January 3rd. And we are talking about coronavirus and climate crisis and where we're headed. So we have our guest speaker, Kat, master biologist, future. Any other titles?
Home builder?
Home builder, architect of our future. If we will have a future, we have to listen to him if we're going to have a future. All right.
We have a future.
All right, go ahead.
You can't not have a future. Your future might be that you go extinct, that you don't. And if you don't go extinct, then you have a longer future, all right?
Right.
So those are your those are your options. Now, on the point of extinction, I should clarify my thinking on that. I don't think there's any chance at all of that happening to humans.
Right.
We are in the sixth mass extinction that is being perpetrated by humans against non-human life. It does not include us. One thing that might happen is that we pull out the fossil fuel rug from under 8 billion people. That's one possibility because of climate change. Might even be a necessity, right? So it's not even a possibility; it's a high probability that happens. In fact, not even high probability. It's essentially guaranteed that happens. It would be a miracle if we did not pull the fossil fuel rug out from under global civilization. So, in the case that we do, which is almost like now the default, then you might have a die-off of the human species, which is not the same thing as extinction. An extinction is a number. The number is zero.
What number? What do you mean by the number? What's the number?
Extinction implies a
zero.
number,
A zero.
and the number so implied is zero.
Right.
Okay? Extinction is not a lot of people or animals dying. Extinction is not, you don't see animals as often as you used to see them. Extinction is not any of those things.
It's zero.
Extinction is a number, and the number is zero.
Right.
Okay? So, I'm going to adjust this camera a little bit.
Okay, good.
So, when you talk about human extinction, that's better. When you talk about human extinction, if you do, and there are people out there right now who are talking about that, then the number you're talking about is zero. Zero humans, which is not possible. Anything's possible, right? No, not anything is possible. I don't see any mechanism by which humans go to zero. Not even nuclear war. Someone actually did a study. Oh, how many people will die in a nuclear war? Would humans go extinct in a nuclear war? No. And they decided that a global nuclear holocaust wouldn't even destroy civilization. Least of all, zero. Okay? So all the things that you think are possible and zero is out there somewhere waiting for us, no. Numbers. Let's talk about numbers. So there are round figures, 8 billion people on the planet. Round figures. It's a little less than that. Start with that. A 99% die-off of all human life, were that to happen. 99% sounds really horrific. It would be horrific, by the way. It would be horrific. The amount of death implied by 99% die-off, the amount of bodies involved, and the amount of broken homes and nations and everything by 99% die-off is horrendous. But it would still leave 80 million humans. 80 million humans is a big number. That's 8,000 million. 80 million humans is a big number, okay? And that's 1% of 8,000 million, which is where we are now. There aren't 80 million of anything on this planet right now. There's not 80 million chimps. There's not 80 million orangutans. There's not 80 million primates. Monkeys, apes, all of them combined. There's not 80 million of them. There's not 80 million wildebeest. There's not probably, I'll just go out on a limb and say this, I'm sure it's wrong, but I'll just say this as a reference point. There's not 80 million animals living on the continent of Africa, okay? And yet, with a 99% die-off of human beings, we would still be 80 million human beings. It's a big number. That is nowhere near zero. A 99.9% die-off of human beings, which is like as close to 100 as most people could ever imagine, still leaves 8 million humans. 8 million, that's a big number. No, it's not as big as 80 million, but it's still a big number. 8 million of anything is a huge number of that thing. 8 million is a lot. Probably at one time, there were maybe, well, at one time, there were exactly 2 modern humans on the earth, because that's the minimum, right? One male, one female. But we also went through a bottleneck at one point about 70 or 100,000 years ago, modern humans. We were down to maybe 2,000 individuals, maybe as many as 10 or 12,000 individuals. We're not really sure what the actual number was at the end, but they by looking at mitochondrial DNA and other genetic material, right? Looking for them, knowing that the mutation rate is constant, we must have emerged from maybe a few thousand fairly genetically similar humans, and now we have 8 billion humans.
And that was, you're saying, 8?
And 2 or 3,000 sounds like a very small population, right?
Right.
If you had 2 or 3,000 rhinos left, you say, wow, they're critically endangered. Critically endangered. They could go extinct next year. That's true, they could. And yet, 2 or 3,000 humans was enough to get 8 billion humans somewhere down the road, right? So
you're
80 million humans, even at a 99% die-off, is a huge number of people.
Okay,
That's just enormous.
can we go back one second? Was you saying about 70,000 years ago, we were down to like 2,000 humans? There was a bottleneck? Is that how recent it was? 2,000 years ago?
No.
No, not 2,000, 70,000. 70,000 years ago, we were about down to 2,000 humans.
There is scarring, if you like, there is scarring in our genetic component that suggests that we were as few as a few thousand individuals 70 or 100,000 years ago.
I see. Was that, and that was a mass die-off of us prior to that?
No, because we don't know how many there were prior to that.
But we were that
There's no record, right? Because
70,000.
once you go through a bottleneck,
That's
all information prior to that bottleneck is lost.
Oh, really? Is that
and then
true?
you widen out from there. This is now your new starting point.
Oh, I see. You're saying that all biological history before 70,000 of us Homo sapiens, there's no record of that?
No, there's no record.
Wow. So we go back to this, that's where all Homo sapien history is post 70,000 years ago. And we started that short. Okay, but about that.
Estimate I've heard as recently as 70,000, but as long ago as maybe 100,000.
Yeah, but it's very small, you know. And that was 70,000. We just started, and then this is where we are, and 70,000 years ago. So you know that's 68,000 BC, right? Right, basically 68,000 BC. And that's just a blip in time, really. That's very short in terms of geologic history, right? And
all by way of saying that the prospects of human extinction, when a 99.9% die-off still leaves 8 million humans, and we went through a bottleneck once of as few as 2,000 humans. Okay, the worst kind of cataclysm you can think of doesn't get us there.
Okay, good. So that's why Cat has always said that we're not going to go extinct.
Mass extinction is not about us.
It's
about us and that we are causing it, but it's not about involving us.
But we could have a big die-off. The die-off is what you're seeing. You see definitely a die-off, right? In that we are on that train, that there's 6 million species scheduled.
A die-off cannot be avoided.
Right, a die-off. That we're on the train of a lot of extinction, and a lot of extinction, which is 6 million species.
And there's actually
1 million
scientific support for why a die-off is inevitable. Now, you're not going to hear a lot of scientists talking about this because they don't get any airtime, right? We're not going to give airtime to people like that. That's alarmism. But there are scientists talking about this, and I'm one of them. I got no dog in this fight. You want to talk about it? Sure, I'll talk about it. Here's the science behind a 99% die-off.
Right, and that's, so he's saying, we're on the train of the sixth great mass extinction, what they're saying is 1 million species are, potentially going to go extinct in the next couple of decades. Kat has said that we're on that train, but he says
Yeah.
we're not gonna go
There's no
extinct,
way getting
but
off
we're gonna
that
have a
train
mass
anymore.
die-off. We're gonna have a mass die-off.
Yeah, we're gonna have a mass
We
die-off.
need those, other,
Yeah.
animals,
Yeah.
insects, birds, for our survival. And we're losing them, and that's really, really critical. That is really critical, that the insects and the birds are going extinct and are declining. And so we know the bees are having a hard time. It's our practices, and we are of pesticides, neonicotinoids, that is causing the die-off of the bees, the colony collapse. And then what's the other? Then we're destroying so many other species. 1 million species are at risk of extinction, and we're not changing. We have to have. That's what the report said. The PBES report, the IPBES. I think they call it the IPBES, the International Protocol on Biological and Ecological Services, and that's how they look at it: is ecological services, and we're losing those. And they're saying we need radical change. That report, that intergovernmental report that just came out, that was a UN report or something, right? It's best.
Okay, but you're not going to get radical change. And a report like that is assuming that radical change, even if you had it, would be sufficient. Yes, we need it, but is it sufficient?
Right.
It may not be.
No. And how? Yeah. Right.
And even if your radical change is sufficient to reduce the rate of extinction, does it reduce it to zero? No. Certain things are already on a pathway to extinction, so that's just going to happen. That's now their fate. Due to our activities, their fate is now extinction. So why is there scientific evidence for a 99% die-off of the human species? So this is kind of a thought experiment. You need to know a couple of things. You need to have some background to follow along. So I can fill that in for you. In the year 1700, look this up, global population in the year 1700. These are all estimates. There were some kingdoms taking, censuses in 1700. Those are pretty modern people. And there are other places in the world where all we can do is estimates. Travelers saying that they think this country had this many people and so forth. But, we have estimates for how many people there were in the world globally in the year 1700. The numbers vary a little bit, as you would expect, because it's kind of an estimation process. And it's either 500 or 600 million humans. That's a lot of people. Okay, that's a lot of people. 500 or 600 million. That's like maybe 8% of our current population, though. 7 or 8% in the year 1700, because we are now 8,000 million. In 1700 was maybe 500 million, and now we're 8,000 million. Okay, big difference between 500 million and 8,000 million. I have in the past said that the year 1700 was maybe the last time that we were living within the means of the earth.
In the, what, how do you say it?
Within the means of the
that
earth.
Right.
Within the means
The means of the
of the earth.
Okay.
Okay, is that confusing? Why is that confusing? Anyway, the last time we lived within the limits and the means of the earth, meaning you had a piece of land, you put a seed in it, the seed came up, you harvested the grain, you ate the grain, okay, and then you put in the seed again. That's how they did it. That's how they would do it. They would harvest, they would keep some seed for the next year, and they would put those seed back in the ground, and then they would get wheat. The sun would shine, the rain would fall, the seasons would come and go. Whatever requirements that plant needed to grow were met, okay? And you can feed yourself off of the earth. And in the year 1700, I like to say that was the last time we lived that way. People planting seeds, having orchards, vineyards, raising their animals, living in their simple homes, traversing the oceans with wind, another form of solar energy. The last time everybody did that in a way that we can reliably attest to would have been about the year 1700, when there was about 500 million humans on the earth. Pretty evenly distributed. However, it's wrong to say. It's actually incorrect to say that that was the last time we lived within the means of the earth. Is incorrect, because in the year 1700, European nations were already sending ships sailing to other continents to bring home resources they no longer had. So it's a fiction that they were living within the means of the earth in their own kingdoms, because they were having to go to other kingdoms further afield